So what's the point of art and poetry? What does it contribute? Well, I think great literature, great poetry can reboot the consciousness. And it helps us to recognise, as the Australian poet Les Murray said, the centrality of absolutely everywhere. So I think you want some poems. I'm going to begin with a short piece that looks at our addiction to fossil fuels. This poem is going out today with the Poetry Society, who are launching 3 immense eco-poetry packs launched for children and potentially going to every school in the country. And that's a sign of hope, because that wouldn't have been on the agenda 10 or even 5 years ago. It's set in the future, it's a little light-hearted, and it tries to say that we're not just what we eat, we are what we burn. Donkeys. The short-term view was a 4-stroke fall. Now the car's extinct, the mule must rule. For having squandered that liquid sun, it's back to a horsepower precisely of 1, where filling up means buckets and attention to dung. The kind of Ferrari you get down our way does 0 to 60 kilometres per day on 2 bales of hay. We made for our backs a cross like the donkeys, but painted black. Well, if this is entropy, then its laws are an ass that ekes us through the eye of the energy pass. Down empty freeways, our donkeys now plod. They knew all the while, hence that asinine smile, the endless nod. Thank you. As a physics teacher, I had a huge chart on the wall that showed all the levels and orders of magnitude, 10 to the 12, 10 to the 9, 10 to the 6, right down to 10 to the minus 12. Everything from the universe down to the smallest part of an atom. And sometimes when we're contemplating the scale of environmental problems, we tend to place ourselves at the top of that scale where immensities are required. And this poem is looking at the way in which, rather than become overwhelmed by that, perhaps the changes of attitude and responsibility and perception can happen at the other end of the scale. Orders of magnitude. 100,000 trillion joules to turn an ice cap into mush. 100,000 billion joules to erase a major eastern city. 100,000 million joules to run a car to death. 100 million of the same for fire brigades to reach the kitten, 10 million just to keep December from cold feet. 100,000 joules for a mug of tea, 100 joules for a second's worth of war and peace, 10 to raise a hand to lift an average apple to the lips, a single joule to shout the command, half a joule to pull the trigger, just 1/10 to push the button, almost 0 to have the thought. That great contemplative poet, Theodore Rothko, said, "You can't make poetry simply by avoiding cliches. You can't make sustainability simply by avoiding mistakes. There has to be some plural negotiated vision based squarely on insight, awareness, a full, flexible, conscious humanity. One that's prepared to challenge, perhaps, what the term sustainability actually means and whether it's leading us in the right direction. And if you give the poets a chance, they'll do that." This final piece, this short piece, dares to envision an England where, or Britain where, we've returned to rural crop growing, we're beset by increased rainfall, flash floods, but the people, in spite of limited means, still laugh and joke and tell stories as they work. And I'd like to leave you on that note, not one of passivity or of doom, but of earthy human resilience. And I warn you, there's some naughty words in this. In hay waist deep was Uncle, who said he saw a lash of rain snap upward, viper sharp, to bite the coming down tail. Another, tending eaves at top of ladder, felt on his back drops, worse than wasps to a sack, while wife with foot hard on bottom rung kept her face of tinder. Yet another watched, brown slick of cloud, a few meters up, suck back its centre like a seam in the roasted bean, till it split with blue, and for an hour all air smelt of coffee. Last, it came to me. I said, once I stood in rain so ferocious, streams front and back met at my pizzle, till I knew how it felt to piss like Orion. I said, this happened, but they laughed and took out scythes and said the hay was dry enough. Thank you.